I'm going to get us started in a moment with the sponsors, and then we'll see where we want to pick up with the Gemara, right? Okay. Harvey, everything okay by you?
No complaints. Nope.
And if you had, you can only tell him to leave, right?
And she doesn't listen to me anyway, so it doesn't matter.
She's got you on mute, huh? She's got you on mute.
Okay, Erwin, Zev, good. Okay. Ted said he should be getting on this morning too. Okay, maybe even Mindy. Okay, our sponsors. A Year of Learning, Dr. Paul Koningsberg, in memory of his brother, Dr. Sam Koningsberg, Shimon Reuven ben Labish, and Ed Goldberg's cousin, Nisan Hara, Nisan ben Fardosa. Paula and Bob Bromberg. Bob should be getting on. In memory of their dear friend, Julian Smith, Yehuda ben Yisrael. Malka Mann, in memory of her family murdered in the Holocaust. Rav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Hessel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. The many friends of Dr. Marvin Blush, Moshe Shalom ben Yitzchak Halevi, friends of Toby Paris, Saratova bat Yisrael Dov, friends of Malka Levi, Malka bat Yosef, friends of Avi Gitler, Avrameir ben Shimon, Cheryl Schur, her children and grandchildren, in memory of her uncle, founding member of BRS, Dr. Israel Brook, Yisrael ben Harav Akim, Marcia Federbush and family, in memory of her husband, Dr. Uriel Paul Federbush, Uriel ben Harav Shimon. A Month of Learning, sponsored by Charlie Gelfenstein, in memory of his mother, Dacia Gilbas Meir Halevi, and his father, Meir ben Yaakov, by Gila and Harold Saltzman, in memory of her mother, Eti bat Yitzchak Elchanan, by Chaim and Phyllis Reese, in memory of his father, Mordechai ben Yom Tov Lipa, by Phyllis and Chaim Reese, in memory of her father, Pinchas ben Avraham. Also have a Week of Learning, sponsored by Leila and Ziggy Bessler, in memory of her father, Mordechai ben Yisrael Yitzchak. Today is the 22nd, and therefore we have a Day of Learning sponsored by my wife, Karen, and myself, in memory of my mother, Ita Perel bat Shlomo Zalman, also by Ann Hochberg, in memory of her husband, Moshe ben Avraham, and that is it for today. May the Neshamas have Aliyah, Kranka Rafia, Velda Yashir, Shem Matzliah, and L'chol B'nai Yisrael, a good Gaben Shtiyar. Okay, in the Gemara, we are going to be close to finishing a Ruvin today, at least this morning, okay? Actually, I don't know how people, in terms of dealing with yesterday's learning, but I thought I would start with the Mishnah on Kaf Dalet Amud Beis, go through that, and then right on to Kaf Hey, which, all right, and then that way, if you had a chance to learn it, good. If you didn't get up to that point, okay as well, right? So, Kaf Dalet Amud Beis, the Mishnah starting to deal with sheretz, okay? Again, the issue of a sheretz found in the precinct of the Beis Hamikdash. Remember, we kept seeing a number of examples, okay, between issues in the Beis Hamikdash and issues situations in the Medina, in the countryside. And so the Gemara Mishnah tells us, sheretz shenimtza b'mikdash. If one finds a sheretz, one of those 7 creepy, crawly creatures there that convey tuma, what do? All right. Kohen motzio b'hamayno, says the Tanakama, that the Kohen should remove this sheretz using his small sash that's usually wrapped around his waist, one of the begadim of the Kohen, one of the priestly vestments that can contract tuma. And why should he do that? Shelo l'shot et hatuma, in order not to prolong, I'll use the word, this tuma in the temple precinct. Divrei Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. That's the view of Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. Rabbi Yehuda, however, disagrees and says, Omer b'tzevet shel eitz, namely he should use a pair of tongs made out of wood. Since wood is not mekabel tuma, okay, that's what he should use. Shelo lerabot et hatuma. Excuse me.
To spread.
In order not to prolong, okay, the time of tuma. How would he prolong it? It would be prolonged because he would have to go around looking to find this wooden tongs. And then only once he found it, then he could go and use it to remove the sheretz. So now the Mishnah continues, right? Mehachan motzi'in oto. Where does he take it out? In other words, if he finds it, what areas are requiring that it be removed? Min ha'hechal, okay, from the hechal itself. Umin ha'ulam, okay, and from the ulam, the, if you want to call it the antechamber, okay. Umibein ha'ulam lam ulam mizbeach, divrei Rabbi Shimon ben Nanas, and between the antechamber and the mizbeach, okay, according to Rabbi Shimon ben Nanas. Rabbi Akiva Omer, kol makom shechayavin al zdono karet va'al shkigato chatat, mishum motzein oto, misham motzein oto. Okay, any place, says Rabbi Akiva, okay, that a situation is such that the person might be chayav karet for an intentional transgression, or chayav, okay, also, right, in that case, correct, and for a shkiga, an unintentional act, he would have to bring chatas as opposed to being chayav karet, all right, and therefore that would be the case there. It's where he has to bring it out. Now, b'shar kol mekomot, assuming that this is still, okay, could be Rabbi Akiva, it could be, however, back to Tanakama, okay? Kofin alav psach tar, okay? That he has to put on top of it, other places, a bowl or a copper pot. So that seems more logical to say that it was from Tanakama. But we'll see if the Gemara deals with that, okay? Rabbi Shimon Omer, says Rabbi Shimon, okay, makom shehitiru lecha chachamim mishelcha natnu lach. Okay, from some place where the sages granted you a dispensation, that is rightfully yours. Now, what is Rabbi Shimon dealing with? That we're going to have to look at and see, okay, shortly, right? Right? Shelo hitiru lecha ela mishum shvut, that they only permitted you that which was, I'm going to read into the text, prohibited based on rabbinic prohibitions, rabbinic decrees. Now, says our Gemara, Amar Rav Tavi, says Rav Tavi bar Kisna, Amar Shmuel, in the name of Shmuel, Hamachnis tamei sheretz lemikdash, one who were to be bringing in an item that had become tameh by means of contact with the sheretz into the temple precinct, chayav. That person is considered to be liable because they're over on a Torah mandate, right? Sheretz atzmo, okay? But if he brought the sheretz itself, say he accidentally carried in a lizard on a garment, right? It is okay. And into the temple precinct when he went to bring a korban. Patur, he says, that person is exempt. Okay, in other words, they're not over on a Torah mandated. Why? Ma'itama, amakra, says the pasuk, mizachar va'ad nekeva tishalchu. Okay, that we're saying that if a person becomes contaminated, becomes tameh, whether it's a man or a woman, okay, they will be sent outside. In other words, sent outside the camp, likewise sent outside the temple precinct, and they shouldn't enter it l'chatchila. Mi sheyesh lo tahara b'mikvah, okay, one who is able, or something that is able to become tahor by immersion in a mikvah, yatsa sheretz she'en lo tahara. That we say excludes a sheretz because there's no means to be metaheret, to make it tahor. Lema mesayeh le, shall we say then that this supports this view of mizachar ad nekeva tishalchu, right? That it supports this idea if the man, a woman, or an object, okay, that becomes contaminated and cannot be made tahor by immersion in the mikvah, has to be discarded, put away, okay? Prat l'klei cheretz, says with the exception of earthenware utensils, okay? Because the earthenware utensils, if it does become tameh, it's not an issue of biblical transgression, because we could break the utensil, right? And in that way, that ends its tumah. Divrei Rabbi Yossi Haglili. That's the view of Rabbi Yossi Haglili. My tama, what's the reasoning? Lav mishum delit le tahara b'mikvah. Wouldn't it be because it would be possible to be mataher that utensil in the mikvah? Lo, no, says the Gemara. Mishene asa av hatuma, yatsa kli cheres she'eno ne'asa av hatuma. When something becomes an av hatuma, that excludes earthenware items because they cannot become an av tuma, right? Right, partly because they're made from earth, and earth does not become capable of being tameh. So Gemara continues now and says to us as follows, right? Lemek tnai. Shall we say this is based on a machloket tanaim? Sheretz shenimtza b'mikdash, that when we have a sheretz that's found in the temple precinct, kohen motzio b'haimaino, that the kohen should remove it using his sash, right? Shelo l'shot et hatumah, in order not to prolong the impurity there. Divrei Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, according to the word of Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. Rabbi Yehuda Omer. However, Rabbi Yehuda said, and this is basically what our Mishnah was telling us, Sevet shel eitz motzio, that he should use tongs or prongs made out of wood to remove it. Shelo lerabot et hatuma, in order not to increase
Spread it, right?
right? The amount of time that the tuma is there in the temple precinct. My love, bahaka. Isn't this what they're arguing about? Demand amar shalolish ot. That the one who says you should not prolong kasavar must be of the opinion hamachnis sheretz lemikdash chayav. That one who even accidentally, we might say, carries or brings a sheretz into the temple precinct is chayav, over on a biblical lav. Uman de amar shelo lerabot kasavar, and the one who says not to increase, okay, or prolong, is of the opinion hamachnis sheretz lemikdash patur. Okay, that one who brings even accidentally the sheretz into the temple precinct is exempt. Lo, no, says the Gemara. The kuli al machayav. No, that everybody agrees that the person would be liable. Vahacha, and here, bahaka miflage. This is what they're arguing about. Mar savar shihua tuma adif. One is of the opinion, okay, that I'll say prolonging the tuma is preferable. In other words, better to let it wait till you find the prongs or the tongs, wooden tongs, and use that. Okay, that's a preferable situation. Umar savar afushe tuma adif. And the other must hold that, okay, that one limiting the, right, and the other holds that increasing the tuma is preferable. Better to use the prongs. The other holding, shahui, that if you limit it, okay, that's preferable because you're taking it out even though you've made the priestly garment tameh. Now, Ella kahane tanai, right? But rather what we're saying here, kahani tanai, the tznan mehachan motzeinoto. Okay, but rather maybe their argument, yeah, okay, their argument is like the following Tanaim, okay, who argue on the following, okay, this Mishnah, mehechan motzeinoto.
Where do we get
What
that?
locations do you need to remove it from? My love bahakamiflage. Isn't this what they're arguing about? Demand amar me azara, that the one who says one has to remove it from all places, let's say in the temple precinct, lo kasavar hamachnis sheretz lemikdash patur, is not of the opinion that one who brings the sheretz into the temple area, okay, is exempt. Uman de amar mikula azara, and the one who says removing it from the entire azara, kasavar chayav, he holds that one who brings it in is liable and over on a biblical prohibition. Okay. Now we go over to Kafhe. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Says Rabbi Yochanan, Ushnehen Mikra Echad Darshu. And the two of them really expounded the same pasuk. What was it? The following pasuk, as we're going to see, okay, from Divrei Hayamim, from Book of Chronicles. Okay. Vayavo HaKohanim L'Pnima Beit Hashem L'Taher V'yotziu et Kol HaTam'ah Asher Matz'u Behechal Hashem L'Chatzar Beit Hashem V'kablu HaLevi'im L'Hotzi L'Nachal Kidron Chutza. So we have a pasuk here that's telling us that the Kohanim used to go in to the Beis Hamikdash, right? To the Heichal, right? And if they found there something in the Heichal or even the Ulam, they would carry it out, okay? But they would only carry it out insofar as the, let's say, Azara, the temple courtyard. Okay? And then from there, the Levi'im would take it and then carry it out further. Okay? Now, there's this then transmission, if you will, okay, from one group to another. Now, the Gemara continues. Mar savar mida ishtane ba'azara b'levi'im, right? One seems to hold that since there is a change in the, let's call it courtyard, regarding the Levi'im, right? Tuma ba'azara leka, that therefore there is no tuma there in the courtyard. Umar savar, and the other master holds, ad hecha de lo efshar, okay? In other words, the Kohanim, I'm going to say carry up to where they can carry. But since the Levi'im cannot go into the Heichal or the Ulam, okay, therefore they only, so to speak, pick it up at the point that they're able to. Namely, right, we said, ad hecha de lo efshar b'levi'im mafke kohanim. Up to the point that the Levi'im can't go in, the Kohanim take it out. Hashta, the efshar b'levi'im. But now here in the Azara, where it's possible for the Levi'im to carry it, two, furthermore, lo mita'amei Kohanim. At that point, the Kohanim should no longer allow themselves to become tamei. Okay. Now, Tanu Rabbanan, we have a Braita, however, that is going to seem to raise a problem with this statement. Hakol nichnasim behechal. All are able to enter the Heichal. Livnot, okay, in other words, to participate in the building. Letakein, to participate in any repairs. Ulahotzi et hatuma, and to remove any tuma. Umitzvah bekohanim. Okay, and the mitzvah is primarily, or first and foremost, I'm going to say, on the kohanim. In aim sham kohanim, if there are no kohanim there, nichnasim levi'im, then levi'im can go in. Ein sham levi'im, if there are no Levites available, nichnasim Yisraelim. The Braita says then Israelites may enter. Ve'idei toharin en tme'im lo. And these, okay? I'm going to say these and these, namely the Levi'im and the Yisraelim, need to be tahor. But if they're tamei, no. Now, Amar Rav Huna. Rav Huna says, Rav Kahana, Messiah Kahane. Rav Huna says, Rav Kahana, who happened to be a Kohen, okay, and who, in a sense, supports the view that Kohanim are of a special status, okay, teaches as follows. Tatani Rav Kahana, mitoch shene amar, since it says, ach, right, limiting, okay, el haparochet lo yavo, yachol lo hiyu kohanim ba'alei mumim nichnasin bein ha'olam lamizbeach la'asot rikuyei pachim. We're saying since the pasuk elsewhere limits that in terms of going into the parochet, in the heichal, okay, those Kohanim who have a mum are not eligible to enter, right? Either in the ulam or the temple, the area of the Mizbeach. Excuse me. La'asot rikuye pachim. In other words, to make beaten plates. What they did is they took plates made out of gold. They would beat them, and then they would attach them as wall coverings inside the Heichal, okay, before the Aro. Okay. Talmud Lomar, Ach Chilek. That therefore we learn, says that the phrase Ach separates mitzvah b'tmimim, okay, that the mitzvah should be with those Kohanim, preferably that are tamim. They are basically, if you want to translate tamim pure, or you want to translate it them
unblemished.
Unblemished, right.
Not tahor.
Tahor.
Not
Ein
necessarily.
sham tmimim. If there are none there that are unblemished or pure, nichnasin ba'alei mumin. Then we understand that Kohanim, who may have a mum, still would go in place of the tmimim. So Kohanim would then still be preferable to Leviim or Yisraelim. Okay, so, right, we'll go on. Ba'alei mumin mitzvah b'tohori. Even those who have a mum should, particularly if they are tahor, in. Yes, they could go in. Okay, ein sham. Mitzvah b'tohorim. Ein sham tohorim.
Listen to me.
If there are no Kohanim, even though they may have Hamum, if they're not Tahor, Nichnasin Tme'in, then you would go to the next, which would still be Kohanim, even if they have a mum, and then even if they're Tameh. So the Gemara now says, Idi v'idi Kohanim. Again, these and these are Kohanim, and yes, Yisraelim, lo, but Israelites, not. Okay, so now another question is raised. Ibayilaho, let the following problem. Tameh ubal mum, ezahu mehem nichnas. If someone is a Kohen and he is Tameh and also a Baal Mum, who then goes in, right? Rav Chia bar Ashi Amar, he says, Rav, in the name of Rav, Tameh nichnas, the one who is Tameh goes in, Daha ishtare ba'avodat tzibur. Why? Because he is permitted in regards to a public worship. In other words, if there's a situation where the entire community is Tameh, then a Tameh Kohen is permitted to carry out that avoda, nevertheless. Okay? Rabbi Elazar Omer, Ba'al Mum Nichnas. He disagrees. He would say, no, in that case, the one who has the mum would go in ahead of the one who is tameh. Daha ishtare ba'achilat kodeshim. Why? Because he is permitted in eating kodeshim. In other words, he still gets a, so to speak, a kohanic, a priestly portion of a Kohen, even though he has a mum, so long as he is
Tahor.
right? Okay, now we get to the next part. of the Gemara. And in this particular section, I want to go back to what the Mishnah said, just for a moment there. Okay, the Mishnah cited Rabbi Shimon. Okay, right? And in that Mishnah, okay, right?
No.
He said, Makom shehitiru lecha chachamim mishalcha natnu lach shelo hitiru lach ela mishum shvut. Okay. Now, the question that the Meforshim ask on this is basically, what is Rabbi Shimon referring to? Is he only referring to this particular Mishnah? Or is his statement a closing statement referring to other discussions throughout the entire Masechet? Okay, and there's differences of opinion on this. Let's see if we can understand what he said first. We're not going to finish till the end of the Amud, so that we'll have a little bit to cover still this afternoon at the Siyum. Okay? Rabbi Shimon said, now, Rabbi Shimon, Heicha Kai. So the first question the Gemara asks is, where is he standing, so to speak? In other words, on what is he talking about? Okay? What is he referring to? Hatam Kai. There he's referring to. Okay? So in other words, is it this Mishnah that we've just been talking about, or a different Mishnah? And now the Gemara feels it has to quote that source, Titnan, where it says in the Mishnah, Mi shehechshich chutz letchum, afilu ama achat, lo yikanes. Where that Mishnah we quoted before, and learned that according to Tanakama, if it became dark when an individual was outside the Shabbos Tchum, even the distance of only, I'm going to say, 1 Amma, according to Tanakama, he cannot enter. Rabbi Shimon Omer, afilu 15 Amma yikanes, Lefi she'ein hamishochot mematzeim et hamidot mipnei hatoim. Okay, we're going to continue in a second. But what is he saying, Rabbi Shimon? That according to his view, he says, even if the individual was out, according in this particular Mishnah, was outside the marked, I'm going to say, boundary of the Tchum Shabbos, as much as 15 Amma, okay, he could still enter. Why? Because he argues that the surveyors are not exact, okay? That when they set up the Tchum, they adjust, okay, the limit, okay, or the markers, whatever term we want to use, lest there be those who might make a mistake, okay? In other words, that some people may accidentally go outside the Tchum, okay, because it's dark, let's say, and therefore what do? You're saying they can't come in? Rabbi Shimon says, no, really what the surveyors did is that they put the marker 15 amas shorter than the actual 2,000 amma of the Tchum Shabbos as a kind of, I'm going to use the word siyag, or as a kind of, right, approach. The Ka'amar, Tanakama, lo yikanes, va'amar le Rabbi Shimon yikanes. And that's why Tanakama says, okay, that one cannot enter, right? Whereas Rabbi Shimon says he can enter, okay? In other words, that the surveyors don't give the full measurement, but he can, right? Because that area, that the 15 amma is really, so to speak, in Rabbi Shimon's words, rightfully yours, okay? It really is still actually within the tchum, okay? And therefore, we're saying, in addition, there's a leniency in regards to eruvei tchumim and eruvei chatzeros. And therefore, you do not have to be machmir in that subject, okay? So that's another element, okay? Now, okay, we're going to stop right there, okay? Because the next part of Rabbi Shimon, Shelo hitiru lecha ela mishum shvut, okay, right? We're going to pick that up later today when we do the seal, because it's just a couple of lines, and it suggests that maybe the machloket between Tanakama and Rabbi Shimon is on a different Mishnah, okay? That's going to be in regards to the Mishnah that talked about the strings of the harp or the instrument in the Beis Hamikdash, as to whether one needs to tie it, may tie it in a knot or only
With a bow.
with a bow. Okay, so that's where we'll pick up, as I said, in the at the seal. Okay, and finish that later today. That will be at 1 o'clock. As I said, those who need going to do it on Zoom, I'm going to repeat the code and the link and the passcode. Those who feel they do want to be at a in-person, that's going to be in front of Pacey Ackerman's apartment in Wolverton A. Okay, so the Daf Siyum link is again as follows: 830-3599-9879, and the passcode Siyum, the word Siyum, SIYUM. Okay. Now, I did not check to see that there had been a flyer, okay, in the bulletin, if I remember correctly, okay, for the seal, all right? And I did not check if it's on the Shul website. In the past, you've been able to click on the flyer to do that as well, okay?
Thank you very much.
Okay, everybody,
Have a great day.
See you
Be well.
later.
Thank you.
See you later. All right.
Okay, Marvin, take care.